Hello, listeners, and thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of The Millionaire's Lawyer. On today's show, we have Lori Lyons, who declares that she's a non-technical person living in a technical world, although we know she's got some technical skills because we're going to talk about how she's using them right now. She's an entrepreneur who is a marketing strategist and owner of a website design company. So she's been helping others design their web presences. She's looking to profit from others' experience and help them grow their businesses, just as we are on The Millionaire's Lawyer. She also tells us that she loves the Atlanta Braves, football, and Angels Envy Bourbon. What a great intro. Lori, tell us about Angels. Tell us how you're doing. Say hello and tell us about Angels Envy Bourbon.
Hi, JP. Great to be here. Yeah, I actually discovered it at an event we were both at in September. And a friend of mine, I've never been a big bourbon whiskey drinker, but she had some and it smelled really good. I'm like, here, let me have a taste of that. I was like, oh, I'm in trouble. So that is actually on my Christmas wish list this year. So
to get into trouble,
yeah.
Or Angels Envy Bourbon?
Both.
There you go.
I think one leads to the other.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Yeah, it's it was so smooth and a little cinnamony hint, and it was just good. So it was a nice capper for those long days.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Well, that's
so
just great. That's fantastic. A nice
Mm-hmm.
segue into those nice long days, because a lot of our business owners have just those. What are some of the things you
Absolutely.
can do to help them maybe ease some of the hours they're putting in and more specifically assist them with their marketing presence?
Sure. Oh, that's a good way to put it. Hours we put in, I think it's just natural to the business as we're entrepreneurs that, we work a lot more than we would like to. But from a marketing perspective, I think the best thing that you can do, and the number one tip I give everybody, is plan your marketing. And so much of our social media today is off the cuff, or we think that it is, but the best off the cuff marketing is planned marketing.
Right.
So if you know where you're going and you know what you're doing, then you can always be aware. And it just makes your business life so much more simple from a marketing standpoint if you plan where you're going.
Oh, that's great. Great advice there. And so what does a typical marketing plan look like? Obviously, there's some structure, some, I guess, level of frequency people are looking to attain, and probably some kind of consistent messaging, right? Is that kind of the way you
Sure.
help people build a plan? Yeah. So what a good marketing plan look like? How do people design those?
Well, a marketing plan has changed over the years. We still call them marketing plans, but they're, with all of the different integrations that we're bringing in now with the technology and the social media and the blogging and the content and the podcast and all the different stuff we're doing, then what I tell everybody is basically it's an editorial calendar, which when I say those two words, people run in fear because there's so many different ways to do it.
Yeah, it
But
sounds
if you,
daunting. It really sounds daunting,
yes,
doesn't it? Yeah.
exactly, especially when you're talking about planning your marketing out for the year, because what happens if you're a business that maybe depends on something newsworthy and you don't know what the newsworthy is going to be in January. So how do you do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
So what I tell everybody is just to break it down. It's just, they all say, and eat the elephant one bite at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Start month to month. Start, laying out your months very high level and say this month is going to be about, for me, it's going to be about branding, or this month is going to be about website design, or this month is going to be about an overall digital marketing strategy. If you are a small business owner that works in the health industry,
Mm-hmm.
January could be all about New Year's resolutions because that's huge. That's what everybody's talking about in January is losing weight. So tie into that. February could be about how to lose weight with chocolates at Valentine's Day. I mean, they're just the whole thing can tie in per month. In the summer, June, you're talking about how to lose weight on vacation, or how to stay healthy, or how to get exercise during the cold winter months. There can be a lot of different high-level themes that you can work on that all of us as business owners can pull out. And we know what those are. And they don't have to be separate. You can repeat them every quarter because you have different content. So then from that 1 month, you take that and you break it down into weeks. So under this big headline, I'm going to talk about this week 1, this week 2, this week 3, this week 4. And you've now broken it down to simple pieces. If a year is daunting, do it for a month, do it for a quarter, do it for 6 months. Then from the week, you take it down daily. And then that will give you plenty of flexibility and plenty of ways to stay in tune with what's going on around the world if you need to.
Yeah, Lori, that's great advice. As you describe that, I'm picturing, my own business, or
Right.
the law firm itself, because There's obviously marketing being done, but as you describe it, I can now see it's being done a little more sporadically than, without sort of certainly a year-long plan being thought through. Because as a law firm, similar to what you just described, you could have for New Year's, New Year's resolutions could be get a will into place, get your corporate will
Right.
done, get something done that way. February, streamline things. Into the summer months, thinking about vacation and vacation pay and things like that. Even
Absolutely.
that, planning it out that way is that structure, as opposed to just on a regular basis putting something out that you think is interesting. It's to be thought through about where the cycle is for the law firm, the clients of the law firm, but for any business owner listening, where they're at in terms of the cycle that they have with their own clientele throughout the year, right? I mean, that's essentially what you're saying from this plan.
Oh, absolutely. And you can also plan to be spontaneous, which is counterproductive or counterintuitive. But if you're out somewhere and you know what your marketing plan is going to be for, let's say, March, and it's January, and you see we're in a very visual world now. If you see a picture opportunity, take it. You don't have to use the photo at that point. You save it because you know you've got it coming up. And so that helps you for planning purposes. It helps you time-wise because you've already got some of those assets in place. So if you know what you're doing and you know where you're going, you can make the path a whole lot simpler.
There you go. It's a plan. Like we say this in a lot
Yeah.
of different areas, but having a plan and working the plan, right? So that's great. So we
Right.
have a plan. We know some of the themes, perhaps, or what we want to put out at different times of the year.
Mhm.
What are the platforms? Where do you advise people to advertise, to market? Like, what is the execution of that plan look like once it's been thought through for the year?
Sure. It all goes back to who your target market is.
Mm-hmm.
Who is your ideal client? Because there's so many different platforms out there, and not every platform is ideal for every client. So you have to first identify who your target market is. And I was having a conversation earlier this morning. We were talking about target market and ideal client, and for me, it all starts with that. That's the very base of who you are, and that can change.
Right.
As your business grows and develops, you're
Mm-hmm.
probably not working with the same client that you were, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, even a year ago. So we start there and we identify where those clients are on the different platforms. LinkedIn is going through a cycle of coming back to life, and everybody's using LinkedIn now. That is a very corporate platform. And if your clients are business owners, that's a great place to be.
Mm-hmm.
If your clients are 60-year-old women grandmothers, you want to be on Facebook all day because that's where they are.
Right.
If your client is a millennial that's into makeup, go to Instagram because that's where they are. So it just really kind of depends on where those clients are, because what we forget is all of these social medias, with the exception of paid advertising, are free platforms.
Mm-hmm.
But free is not free. Free costs you time, free costs you energy, free costs you a lot of different things. So if you're not putting your assets where they need to be, then you're wasting your time and your money.
Yeah, that's well put. Very well put. As you say, there's still a cost. There's always a cost.
Mm-hmm.
So even if it's not pecuniary, there's certainly other costs.
Right.
So I guess from what you're saying there, then you're not a proponent of being on all platforms at all times. Then.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It depends on what your market is and where your best use of time is, and what you need to do to reach those target market. And sometimes that takes a little pre-planning, and sometimes that takes a little digging to find out where they are. And like I said, free is not free. I had a client recently that started a big social media campaign, but his website, he wasn't driving people back to his website.
Right.
Obviously not using me, because that would have been the first thing I did. But if you don't also have a plan to capture the people that are on your social media platform, then you're also kind of wasting your time, because while you're getting exposure and you're getting likes and you're getting followers, if you're not capturing those and driving them back so that you can keep them in a different place, because algorithms change all the time. So that's another tip that I would give everybody. Make sure you have a path to keep your followers or your people on social media so that you own them. They don't.
Right. So can you describe that in more detail so that we
Sure.
understand what you mean?
Sure. So if let's say you are running Facebook, you are talking to people on Facebook, and you have a for the first of the year or for a New Year's resolution, you're offering a consultation on weight loss, or for you, you're offering a legal consultation, then if you're just talking to them on Facebook, you have no way of getting their email address or getting in contact with them
Right.
other than Messenger. So you want to drive them to your website, either through your content or through a blog or something, where on your website you're capturing their email address. You're giving them something of value, so they will give you something of value back, which is their email address. Then you can put them on your email systems, and you can talk to them from an email basis, because email still works.
Mm-hmm.
As much as we complain about the pop-ups and all that, it still is there for a reason, because it still works. And it's a great way to just talk one-on-one with your clients rather than on social media.
Right. Okay. So you're saying get them into an environment where you can have a dialogue with them, obviously providing value to them so that they are interested in what you have to say, and then maybe inviting them to
Correct.
reach out to you if there's something that is of interest to them. Is that right?
Absolutely, because in that email marketing campaign, you're going to continue to give them value. You're going to continue to talk to them about things that are important to them. And mostly it's a high level. For me, it would be talking about, the strategy of your digital marketing all work together. Here's
Mm-hmm.
how you do it. Here's what you do. We all get those emails that we open because we know that there's going to be good information in them.
Right.
And
Right.
some of us get, a bazillion emails a day. So what makes ours stand out? It's value.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you say, value, and so that's again knowing what is of value to the audience, to the people that are receiving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great advice. So you've created a dialogue. You're going back and forth. So you've created, I guess, a plan. You've created a dialogue with your audience. So you have some back and forth. What next, or what else? I guess maybe, because that's one of the ideals right there. But what else do you
Sure.
add into a plan?
I would say rinse and repeat.
Okay.
You just continue to follow the plan. You just do it with different content. If you're talking about topic A the entire year, people are going to tune it off and get boring.
Right. Well, there's no value, like we said before. It's
Yeah,
just the value
exactly.
proposition as well. It's got
Exactly.
to lead them through. Right.
Exactly. And you do things differently. Each business has a different platform and a different way that they talk to their clients. So you just talk to them throughout the year, but you talk to them about different subjects, and you just keep doing what works.
Right.
And eventually, because, at some point I may not need your service, in month 1, but in month 6 or month 75,
Right.
you may say something that resonates, that
Yeah.
hits me at the time, that, okay, I need this now. This has come up. And thank you for continuing the dialogue, because now I need your service, or I know who to reach out to.
Right. Right.
So it's rinse and repeat is always good.
Yeah. Yeah. And keep active. Keep active.
Right.
Keep at it. Right.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Exactly.
So as you say, Lori, drive them to your website or have people on your website. What are some of the things, and you do some website design, what are
Absolutely.
some things that you advise people to do with respect to their websites? Did you do where would you work predominantly? WordPress, or is there places where you put people for their website? Where's the preferred
Yeah.
platform for that?
Yeah, my preferred platform is WordPress,
Mm.
only because there's so many things you can do with WordPress. I laugh and say WordPress will go shopping for you, it will cook your dinner, and it will almost clean up your dishes. There's so many things out there that it will do for you. It's also something that, with a little bit of training, it's not like it was 15 years ago where the platform was pretty good, easy for bloggers. Now you do need a little bit of training on the back end, but you
Yeah.
can also still manage your own website.
Mm-hmm.
You can go in and change content, change images, and even with all the stuff that comes out with it, all the different plans that they have now, you can still do that, which is one reason I like it. So it just kind of depends also on what the client is, what they're going to do with it in a couple of months or a year or whatever.
Right.
Do they want to maintain their own website, or are they going to get us to do it? It will change how we do the back end a little bit. But yes,
Right.
I work on WordPress. We always talk about what the function is, what the social media is, what's going to be driving to the website. And it's just like buying a car. When you buy your car, you don't leave it sitting in the driveway and you don't put gas and oil in it. A website's the same way. It should be a living, breathing entity that changes. And so many business owners just tend to build it and forget it.
Right.
And in today's climate, with driving your social media back to your website, you want to keep it fresh and looking good. I often tell people that the social media is the soundbite. you get the real story at the website.
Right. That's a good
And
way of putting it. Yeah.
yeah, and you still want to lead people through a sales process. You're still giving them value. All the same things hold true for your website that they hold for all of your marketing.
How important is sort of blogging or keeping fresh content on the website?
Extremely important.
Yeah.
There's a couple of reasons. Number one, you want to give your clients value, or your potential clients value, so that it's always changing and you're giving them new information. Secondly, Google likes to see new content. Google is still relevant. You still want to move organically in Google, and Google likes to know that you're a business that is actually functioning and maintaining your online presence, which is what their big thing, that's what their whole business model is online presence. So if your website is a fix it and forget it, then Google is not going to rank you as highly. And Google also has come a full circle. 10 years ago, it was how can we get keywords in there and doing all the maneuvering and stuff that we used to do 10 years ago to get your site ranked in Google. Now it's simply the bots have gotten so sophisticated that they can tell what you're saying. They can tell how you're saying it. Are you talking in your customer's language, not yours, which is really hard for a lot of business owners to do? Are you maintaining and updating your website, putting new stuff in there? Is your website ADA compliant? A lot of businesses now, that's a big hot topic, is making sure their website can be seen by everybody. Visually impaired, hearing impaired, everybody needs to be able to see your website. So there's a lot of that going on in Google. Recently they made the change that if your website, your URL is not secure with an SSL, they ding you for that. So a lot of things are going on with Google that are making it simpler for a small business owner to actually get ranked.
Yeah, to get to bring up your ranking. So blogging is one, and fresh
Yes.
content. What are some other easy ways for somebody that's maintaining their own website to get themselves fresh content? Is it changing photos? Like what kind of other things do?
Changing photos works. It's not quite as important. You have to make sure that you label your photos and tell people what they're seeing. That's also ADA compliant. But I would say blogging, keeping fresh blogs in, frequently asked questions are a great way to update content, because people have different questions all the time. So if you change those frequently asked questions around, that can be a great way to have new content. What other small business owners don't realize is the second most visited page besides your home page is your about page.
Yes.
Make your about page great. Because a home page is there just to kind of give them a high level overview of what your business and your site is about. Then they'll go to the about page and see who you are as a business owner, especially small business owners. Show your personality, make it who you are. And that will really draw some clients in, like, oh, I want to work with that person, because we all want a good experience. And, dare I say, business can be fun. And in fact, I say on my website, if you're not a fun person, I don't want to work with you, because I like to laugh.
You want to attract fun people, right?
I do. I like to laugh. I like to make jokes, so I don't want to feel like I can't be myself when I'm working with somebody.
Yeah, that's important. And people find each other that way, don't they? They connect.
Absolutely.
As you say, the website presence will drive somebody to you that is of a similar mind, or looking for the same things, right? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
That's great. So you mentioned ADA compliant a couple of times. What are some other things that people need to do to ensure that they are ADA compliant?
Some very simple things that they can do. The first thing they can do is make sure their type is large. The industry standard is 16 to 18 point type.
Wow.
I personally think 16 is a little small.
Wow,
I've been building most of my sites in 17 to 18, and a lot of it depends on what font you're using.
Yeah.
What is the font? Because some fonts read a little smaller than others. Have lots of white space. Have lots of comparisons. Keep in mind that for colorblind people, red and green, they're hard to distinguish.
Right.
So stay away from red and green as much as you can as an overall large component of your color. So if it's okay to use green, just know that it's going to show up as gray.
Right.
So simple things like that and those are really high level of what's going on in the ADA world. But we've had websites that are starting to be sued because people can't see them.
Right. Yeah.
So it's something to very much keep in mind.
It's amazing, right? It's creating another whole area there where people are suggesting there's liability for not having things designed. Are there any other liability issues you can think of for somebody? I mean, obviously taking content that's not yours is going to create an issue for you. But are there other liability issues that you see or that you think would be good to warn people of?
Yeah, probably more your area than mine.
Yeah.
but I would, I'm very careful to make sure that, like you said, you don't want to take somebody else's content. There's not a lot of, I would say probably 90% of the thought in the world is probably already out there. I'm not going to say it's all new content because we never know, but there's nothing wrong. A lot of us use and we read articles and we put them in our own words. And that's perfectly acceptable as long as they're in your own words. I go out and I read articles all the time and I will reference, but I will say, this is what this article means for me. So that's okay as long as I'm giving credit to the author. So, and that's okay. A lot of people do that. We go back in and make things our own.
Yeah, and that's right. We've had previous episodes on copyright and trademark, and any listener, feel free to go back and see those. We've had a couple of attorneys on that speak to those issues. As you say, there's fair use, and there's also it's your interpretation. As long as it's your interpretation of something and you've produced it, you're likely to be okay.
And
but again,
images
qualifications
too.
to that as well.
Exactly. And images too. I think a lot of small business owners think it's okay just to go out to Google or Bing and take an image, say, oh, this is open because it's here on Google. Well, it's not. You still have to get the license or, go to some of the reputable sites where you're purchasing the license and you'll be okay there.
Yeah. Making sure you're purchasing. So I guess that's the other thing is obviously WordPress we talked about. Where else do you shop? Where else do you take people? Do you, if someone's looking to post courses and things like that, do you use, what platforms do you suggest people go to do that? And how do you interweave them with the WordPress presence?
Oh, wow. That's an exploding market. Every day it seems like there's a new platform for that. So a lot of it you kind of depend on what you're familiar with. And I'm familiar with several of them. And we really look and see, how many modules do they have? How are they going to release them? Do they want somebody to have, is it going to be evergreen? Do they want somebody to have full access? So there's some integration functionality that you talk about, and that's very specific to what the program is, but those are pretty high level of what you do to make sure that you've, to pick the platform that's going to work for you. And sometimes it's just a matter of price point, or it's a matter of how many people a platform will hold. There's different platforms for recurring memberships. There's different platforms for somebody who's going to take a 6-week course and then be done. So it really, that's a very broad question depending on what they want.
Yeah. So there's specifics, or it's got to be customized to whatever the need itself might look like. Yeah.
Right. And there's very affordable options. There's free options. There's paid options. There's people out there running millions of people through these programs that maybe a small business owner doesn't quite need yet. So it really just kind of depends on
it's got to be scaled. Well, same question with regards to e-commerce. Like how do you integrate, or where do you suggest people, if people are taking payments, for example, through their website, how are some of the ways? Again, I know there's a range of solutions, but what are some of the solutions you see and you think are probably some of the better ones that are available?
Yeah, it kind of depends. We would have a customized conversation, but WordPress has a very nice free WooCommerce integration that integrates right into to the WordPress site, and it's a free process depending on how complicated your products are. If you've got just a simple book download that you're going to sell, you can do a virtual download basically off of your WordPress website, and it's pretty free, and then you integrate it to your payment system. And that again depends on who your payment processor is, what kind of gateways are available, because you have to have your WordPress site talk to your payment processor. And there's some different bridges and some different ways, without getting really involved and really technical with it for this non-technical person. But
I was going to say, for this non-technical person, I think that you're scratching the surface of the knowledge that you actually have here, which is great to hear. And I know the listeners are excited to hear that as well.
Well, it's interesting because I had this conversation not too long ago. Somebody said, "Oh, I'm not very technical." I said, "Well, if you have a smartphone," which she did. She had an iPhone. I said, "You probably have one of the most technical, convoluted pieces of technology that you can have, and you work it fine." So I said, it's really not that you're not technical, it's that you don't know the strategy.
That's right.
So that's my sweet spot, is working with strategy, and you know what? I know where I can go get the technology if it's above me.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
It's similar to law, right? There's areas of law that you
Absolutely.
know and you're involved with. And then as it perhaps gets into an area that you're not as familiar with, or you know there's a better subject expert available in that area, you consult or liaise with them in order to ensure that the
Exactly.
client is being best served. And you're doing the exact same thing with respect to the solutions you provide to your clients, aren't you?
Absolutely. And I think most business owners that are successful do that, because in today's world, it just makes sense for your clients to give them the best of what you have, as well as the best of what you can bring in.
That's right. Yeah. So great advice, Lori. And we hear there's a range of solutions, and
Mhm.
obviously everybody's got to source or consider what their own specific solutions are. Anybody growing their business, anybody thinking about their business and wants to have the right presence, they've got to think that through. And that's present day, or what we're talking about for present day. The industry and all things continue to evolve. What do things look like in 3 or 5 years from now? I know it's a big question there again as well, but where are we going with all this? Like, what is, everybody's got a website. I guess that's what
Right.
people were saying 15, 20 years ago now, maybe even. And then they said everybody's got a blog, and then they said everybody's got a podcast. And like, so where are we going next? What's the next thing that people are going to be doing?
Ooh, we might actually be talking to each other again.
Yeah.
I have a 22-year-old that's on that, back end of the millennials and the front end of Generation Z, and I see him like talking on the phone again. So I think the connection is going to come back that we kind of lost there for a while. Which is great from a marketing perspective. I think video is going to continue to be huge. I think we're going to sit back in the back of our self-driven cars with our laptops, and we're going to be working 24/7 because we have that capability. I think podcasts, they're really starting to explode now, and I think they're going to continue to explode. And podcasts could even be, dare I say it, the blogs of the future, because even though we do that, but it's going to be something you have to do. And it's probably going to be in a different form or a different medium as it goes to the next level.
Yeah, as things continue to evolve. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
great answer, Laura. Because as you say that, I'm hearing sort of consistently as I ask that question for thought leaders in various industries that there is to a large degree going to be a reversion to actually connection. Like picking up the phone is actually becoming
right,
something again. As you say,
right,
we got away from it for a while, and
right.
there's obviously pros and cons to all forms of communication. But people are realizing that simply picking up the phone or voice. So with a podcast,
Sure,
voice is really powerful, and people are tuning in from their cars, they're
sure.
tuning in from the gym, they're tuning in from everywhere, and not only are the small businesses realizing that, but big businesses as well. And
Yes,
they're launching these podcasts and all these things again
yes.
to get not just the eyeballs anymore. It's also now the eardrums people are looking for as well,
Yes.
aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also too, we have the connection of we're meeting on Zoom.
Yeah.
That is a great way to connect. I met someone not too long ago that literally lives a quarter of a mile from me. And we're meeting on Zoom
Yeah.
because it's a great way to be eyeball to eyeball and bring in the technology. And I see that just becoming more and more of a way to do it. My husband works for a business that does teleconferencing, and they have this room that is identical in several different cities. I can't remember what it's called. It's a Cisco product, I think. And the rooms are identical so that when they have these big screens that are 3D, they look like they're sitting across from each other on a conference table. It
That's
is
fantastic.
really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, that's really
So
cool.
yeah, so they could be talking to somebody in Italy or Egypt, and they look like I mean, there are times where they said they feel like they should be shaking each other's hand because it's so identical. Same color paint, same chairs. It's unique. It's different.
Yeah, and there you go. As we talk a little bit about predicting the future, I think we're going to see
Mhm.
more of that, right? Or
Yes.
on all these Star Trek kind of ways, being in the same rooms, or
Oh yeah.
all these simulators and everything. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Heck, we're now talking on our wrist, so you never
There you
know.
go. That's right. That's right. Yeah,
Who
as we
was
go in that direction.
Yeah. Who was the guy? I can't remember. Barbara. The smart guy.
Spock.
No, he was the funny spy. I don't know. I can't remember the
Are
name
we
of the
talking
program,
Star
but
Trek still? Are we
no,
talking Star Trek?
we're talking. Oh gosh, I just lost it. Anyway,
Oh,
he would
Maxwell
talk on his
Smart.
wrist.
Is it
Yes,
Maxwell Smart you're thinking
yes.
of?
Thank
Yes.
you. Yeah, wouldn't he talk on his wrist on the phone? So now we're doing
Did he
it.
not talk into his shoe, if I
He
recall?
talked into a shoe as a telephone, but I think he
Right.
had something with a
Oh,
phone.
okay, I
Yeah,
can imagine. That's so
yeah, yeah.
ridiculous, isn't it, to
Sorry.
think about those
Yes,
things
thank
now?
you,
Yes.
Maxwell
Yeah.
Smart. That would have
Maxwell
driven me
Smart.
crazy.
There you go. Oh, that's great stuff. So, I mean, it's fun to think about where we are now, to see how far we've come, and then to think
Yeah.
about the future. And obviously, things will continue to evolve. you're evolving your own business. What do things look like for you in the next couple of years?
Ooh, it's funny because a lot of the thing that I've been working on my team has grown is getting out of that employer-employee mentality.
Mm-hmm.
I find myself still being an employee in a job. And that's really what I'm working on for this new decade is to be an employer. In fact, I just went on my calendar and booked off employer time on my calendar. So it's there set in stone, hopefully.
Yeah.
The discipline of doing it. So that's one thing I'm looking at is growing my business. Somebody asked on Facebook recently, what is your word for 2000, for the next year? And my word is impact. So I'd like to be able to make an impact in small ways and big ways. Whether it just be, giving somebody a smile and opening the door for them or paying for their Starbucks or, solving the world problems. That's what I'd like to do for next year, as well as really help small business owners and teach them that marketing does not have to be hard. It does not have to be complicated. It does not have to be frustrating. And there's a lot of people that are starting their businesses who maybe have had a business before or they've retired and they're my age. They look like me with the gray hair and wrinkles. And they're like, I'm ready to start my business because now I have time, but I have no clue how to market. So those are the people I love working with and teaching them that technology is not scary.
Oh, that's great. And that's the way we came in from this conversation. And I think it is really important to say that. And it's everywhere, right? It's an essential element. So yeah, we don't need to be scared of it. We need to work with it. I love your plans for the next year. And the word's a great one, as I say, impact, making a difference. You're making a difference here. If you want to make a difference in any of our listeners' lives, or they were interested in finding you and talking more about some of the things we talked about here today, how would they find you? What are the best ways to reach you?
Sure. Thank you for asking. My website is ignitingyourbusiness.com. And I have a gift for your listeners, if it's okay to bring that up.
Yeah, absolutely. What are you thinking that you'd like to see?
My freebie is called 3 Simple Shifts for Momentum in Your Business. And what that does is it kind of goes through some of the things that we've talked about today, which is identifying and really honing in on who your target market is, and a couple of more different shifts that I'll let you see it when you get the freebie. And when you go to that page and you download it, then you'll also see all my social media. So we can talk about other stuff because it's all there. And so that's would be something I'd love for your listeners to take a look at. It's a great way to plan for the new year and to get going for the new year.
Yeah, and so to build that marketing plan or the plan that we discussed earlier and thinking about the best way of building that out. That's great. So we'll put all this in the show notes as well, of course. But from what you just described, there's great ways to find you there. I like to leave these shows with, and I like the way that you've even picked a word for the year for 2020, but I'd like to leave these shows as we sort of wind up 2019 with something that we can leave the listeners with for the rest of the day, the rest of the week. Mm-hmm. So without taking away from the impact statement, because I think that's a wonderful one there, what would you leave people with at the end of this show today? Something they can take with them as they perhaps drive off or end their day, or maybe they're beginning their day as they drive into work?
Sure. One of the things that I like to say is everything is fixable. That every problem has a solution. So as you're looking around and as you're looking at the different things in your business, think outside the box, because there's a solution for every problem. Sometimes we just have to get creative to find it. I hate the word no. If you tell me no, then my first thought is going to be, oh yeah, watch me. Right. So, and I think as business owners, we sometimes forget that we get so into our everyday same thing every day that we forget that there's a whole world out there. So if you're struggling with something or you're frustrated with something, there's a solution out there. You just have to find it.
Oh, that's great advice there. As you say, don't say no. Don't say no. Don't take no as an answer, right?
Exactly.
And that's coming from a non-technical person who is obviously very, very technical. Lori, thanks so much for your time today. I appreciate having you on the show. Look forward to seeing what the next year, 2020, looks like and the years to come. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a great conversation and I've enjoyed it.
It's great. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
All right.